Okay, so on page 155, it talks about something called indirect object pronouns. Who wrote this? Just kidding. Can somebody tell me what an indirect object pronoun is? What is an indirect object pronoun?
I don't know what is it. Indirect object pronoun?
It can be, yes. But what is a direct object pronoun? What makes it something, an indirect object? Let me ask that. What is an indirect object? Okay, what is a subject? No, that's a noun. Let me try this. Jay kicked Andrew. Okay. All right. Why is Jay the subject? Andrew is a person, place, or noun. Exactly. That's why. The subject is defined by the one doing the action. Okay? What is Andrew besides hurting? Yes. Why? What is the direct object? Kicked Andrew in the shins. We'll go with something appropriate. Kicked Andrew in the shins. The shins are something more specific than Andrew. Right? So, that's not what makes something a direct object. What is a direct object? What'd you say? Exactly. The direct object receives the action. Okay, now, what if I didn't say Jay kicked Andrew? Andrew was the direct object, right? So Andrew is the direct object here? Okay, why? What is the direct object? Right, the ball. And why is the ball the direct object? Well, it's because of what Mark said. Because the ball is what's receiving the kicking. So that makes Andrew what? Yes, but why? No, it's not happening to me. Why is Andrew the indirect object now? It's because the indirect object receives the direct object. Okay? So, what you need to look at when you look at a sentence, who's doing the action, who's receiving the action, and who's receiving the object that received the action? Those are the three questions that we're going to be working with today. Now, what is a pronoun? Just in general, what is a pronoun? What? Okay, yes. Let's see. Him, her, what'd you say? There? They. What else? Them. It. What else? Any more pronouns? Can you think of anything else? Us? What else? Did you say we? You or we? You, yes. And we?
What else?
What else?
You can think of some more.
I can think of some more.
I,
Yes?
You know?
Any more?
You all.
Me?
You all. Well,
You all? Well, technically,
yes.
Yeah.
all of them.
we just use another word to describe plural.
Okay, what else?
Okay, what else? Any more?
One more.
There are more.
He.
He?
She.
She? We've got him.
I. Me.
I, me, you, he, she, him, her, we,
Us.
us,
You.
you,
Them.
them, they.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, there might be a few more obscure ones, but that's about it. Okay, but there's a difference between these, right?
Who does this one refer to?
Who does this one refer to?
Right, myself. Who does
Right, myself. Who does this one refer to?
myself? So that means we can say
Myself. So that means they're the same thing, and I can say, me, kick,
him.
him,
But this refers
but this refers to me. So I can use that word, right?
no and why.
No.
No, and why?
English is dumb.
No,
Yes.
it's not because
Because what? No, it's not because English is dumb, even though sometimes it is.
that's not why.
But that's not why. Think about it. What did we say the subject here was? J is the subject. Why? Because the subject what?
Right.
Right. And we never, ever, ever use this word when referring to myself if I'm the one doing the action. What is the word we always use for myself when I'm the one doing the action? I. Exactly. That is because the word I is called a pronoun, but a what pronoun? Subject pronoun. It's because it's a pronoun that functions as a subject. A pronoun is a noun that replaces another noun. It's pronoun. It replaces the noun, but this word only replaces the noun if the noun is the subject. If the noun is the direct object, you would never say Jay kicked and then the direct object, but referring to myself, you would never use kicked I because I is a subject pronoun. What would be the direct object pronoun for myself? Jay kicked me. Exactly. So in English, there is a difference between the subject and the direct object and the indirect object. And there are rules for which of these pronouns you can use depending on who you're referring to and what function they place in the sentence. So there are rules depending on which ones you use, depending on which function the noun is fulfilling in the sentence. Do you understand that? Okay. The same rules apply in Spanish, except in English, the direct object and indirect object pronouns are basically all the same. Okay, except that we also include preposition. But you're going to need to know that there's differences, and that's what we're looking at. So just like you can't use I as a subject pronoun, you can't use I as a direct object pronoun, the same applies to English. So let's list the subject pronouns in English. I, so if we've got singular and plural, first, second, and third, what would they be? I, this is subject pronouns, okay? We want to look at subject. What subject pronoun do we use when second person singular is the one doing the action? You, right. What about third person? He or she. What about first person plural? We, right. Not us? No, but why? Right, because you would never say us went to the beach. We went to the beach. What about second person plural? Second person. No, it would be third person singular. You are in school. I said you, and I referred to all of you. So that would be second person plural. What about third person singular? I'm sorry, third person plural. They or them? Right, because you would never say them went to the beach. All right, perfect. Now, in Spanish, the equivalents, we should know them, are yo, tú, él, ella, nosotros, vosotros, ellos, and ellas. And then we also have this unique one, usted and ustedes, which means you and you all. But it functions like a third person, even though it means you. Okay, so these are subject pronouns, the Spanish. Yo, tú, él, ella, nosotros, vosotros, ellos and ellas, and then usted and ustedes. The direct object pronouns are going to be this. Me, te, se, nos, os, se. That means that if I'm referring to myself as the one receiving the action, Jay kicked me, then I would say Jay kicked me. Jay kicked you, you received the kicking. Jay kicked te. Jay kicked he, or not he, sorry. Jay kicked him or her. Jay kicked se. Jay kicked us while we were down. Jay kicked nos. Man, you are violent, Jay. Jay kicked you all. Jay kicked os, or Jay kicked them, say. So notice that say could mean kicked him or her, or kicked you respectfully, or kicked them, or kicked all of you respectively. Say could mean any of those. The indirect object pronouns are me. Notice the differences, okay? Te, le, nos, os, les. These four are the same, identical. But these ones are different. Different because it's le, not se. And also because plural is plural. Le versus les. But se stays the same. It's not say and says. Now, let's look at these examples, okay? On the paragraph, let's read what it says. In Spanish, you will often use an indirect object pronoun with the verbs dar and decir. These pronouns usually accompany the verb even when you specifically mention the person to whom you are talking to or whom you are giving something. So why these verbs, decir and dar? Does anybody need this? Need a picture? If you need a picture, take it now because I'm going to erase it. Nope? All right. What does dar and decir mean? They were two verbs that we looked at yesterday. What do they mean? Dar? What does dar mean? ¿Qué significa dar? No. It's an infinitive. Not give, but something give. There you go. To give. To give. So we've got dar. To give, and it's conjugated like this. Okay? What about decir? What does that mean? Right. And it's conjugated like this. Digo, dices, dice. Like how do you say in Spanish? Como se dice? From to say. Dice. Okay, so I want to talk about these verbs a minute, but before we do, why are we looking at these verbs? It's because with these verbs, you're generally going to be talking about a direct object and an indirect object. I give you a gift. She tells, or says, same thing, him, I love you. What I want you to see is that these verbs are very similar. We've got a subject, I and she. We've got a verb, give, and tells or says. We've got a direct object and an indirect object. Tell me in this one, I give you a gift. What's the direct object? Gift. Why? It's funky because when you're talking about a gift, you're talking about somebody receiving something. But the person is not receiving the action. They're receiving the gift. The gift is receiving the action. Exactly. So that makes gift the direct object, and it makes you the indirect object because you're receiving what's being given. What about this one? What's the direct object? She tells him, I love you. What is the direct object? No. It's tricksy. Think of it this way. The direct object in this one is what is being given. The direct object in this one is what is being said. Aw, thanks. Exactly. The direct object is the phrase, what's being said, and the indirect object is to whom this verb is being done to. Tells him. All right, so what I want you to see too is the patterns that we spoke about yesterday. So before we get back into this, I want to take a small tangent and talk about patterns in conjugations. We've got a boot, right? You should be familiar with the boot by now. Notice the root or the infinitive of the verb decir. There's always two parts to every verb infinitive. What are they called? No, two parts in an infinitive. One, two. What are these two parts called? Yes, the root. Yes. Okay, divided there. The suffix is always the last two letters, the AR or the ER or the IR. That's always the suffix, and the root is everything before that. Now, the boot is going to affect both the root and the suffix in different ways. And there's this funky pattern because the root is affecting the E and the I specifically. Okay? So 2 rules. 1 for the root, 1 for the suffix. This verb, decir, is an E to I verb. Yesterday we talked about some verbs like tener. What does tener mean? There you go. To have. Good. And it's what we called an E to IE because it takes the root, ten, and changes it to tien, like tienes, or tiene, right? Inside the boot. So it adds an I, it goes from E to IE. This verb is an E to I, which means it's not adding. The root would be dego, right? Or deso, deco. But it's actually changing the E to an I. And then just like the other ones, the first person singular is irregular and it adds G. So this one, decir, would be D-E-C. But it changes the root to an I. Dices. Okay? So, E to I root changing verb inside the boot. So this verb, if we put down all the conjugations with the root, we're just talking about the root right now. The root would be DEC, 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 inside the boot, and then outside the boot, it would be DEC, DEC, DEC. Okay, now, this is saying, right here, that decir is changing the root, right here, from an E to an I, only inside the boot. Like this, which is what we see. D, day. Right here, decimos. It does not change it inside the boot. Okay? Now, we've got the suffixes. Suffixes for IR verbs are what? Just like which one? Exactly. They're just like ER. Where? For the whole thing?
No, outside the boot.
No, they're only like ER inside the boot. Right. So we've got O, ace, A. But then outside the boot, the suffix is just like an IR verb. So an I. Emos. Is. And back to aim. So what I want you to notice is the pattern. Because of the specific letters that are here and the rules that are being applied because of the boot, they end up switching. Look, D-I, 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 O, E-E-E, D-E, D-E, I, and I. So it ends up reversing the root, the word. D-E-C-I-R, inside the boot is D-I-C-E, and outside the boot is D-E-C-I. Do you see that pattern? Raise your hand if you see what I'm talking about. Okay. It's simply a pattern because the boot is being applied in different ways to the root and the suffix. And so it ends up switching the letters. Okay. Now, back to indirect objects and indirect objects. On the next side, it says, placement of the indirect object pronoun in the sentence follows the same rules as the direct object pronouns. So we have a sentence here, I give you a gift. Let's start by translating this into Spanish. I give, how do you say I give based on these conjugations? What? Doy, exactly. Damos means we give. Right, because that's plural. Okay, how do you say a gift? Can somebody Google Translate it? Look it up. Somebody, look it up. Look it up. Let's go. You ask Siri, how do you say gift in Spanish? Say it. Yes, un regalo. So we have un regalo. Okay, so now we've got doy, I give, un regalo. This would be a correct sentence, just like this. I give a gift. But you're not specifying to whom you're giving it to. So somebody tell me, how do you say you when it's an indirect object? You can look at your book. Te, right. Okay, so that's the right word, but it's not the right location. So look at the paragraph on the right side. What does it say? There are 3 ways, I'll put them over here. 3 ways three locations we can place the indirect object. What are those three locations? What was it? Before the subject? What does it say? Go ahead and read it. One, before conjugated verb. Okay, what's the second one? Yes, attached to an infinitive. Okay, what's the last one? Right. Whenever you see present participle, that term, I want you to automatically think ing. Okay? It's just the ing form of a verb. The ing. So to write versus writing. That's what present participle is. It's the writing as opposed to the infinitive, to write. Okay, so as an example here, let's go with number one. Where would I place this word te in this sentence? This one. So, doy te un regalo. I give you a gift. But it says that we have to place it in one of these three locations. So for number one, where do we place this indirect object pronoun? So what? Where? Say it again, Mark. Before regalo. What is regalo? What does it mean? It means gift. So it's a noun. Exactly. Te doy un regalo. Okay. What about the second one? Attached to infinitive. Let's say it wasn't I give you a gift, but I want to give you a gift. So I want to give you a gift. Notice that the infinitive is right here. To give. And how do you say to give in Spanish? Yes, right here. Dar. Good. If you want to say I want, you say quiero. Like this. Quiero. So we said that you could put te before the conjugated verb. So we could put te quiero dar. Because look, I want. Right? I want is quiero. Dar is to give. And then we have you right there. So dar means, let me make this little. Means to give. So in English we say it just like this. We conjugate a verb, I want, and then we add an infinitive, to give. And it's the same in Spanish. Quiero, I want, to give. Dar. Quiero dar. Okay? So if we want to say, I want to give you a gift, we can put you at the beginning before the conjugated verb. Or we can attach it to here. Like this. Okay, so notice there's a difference. Here, when it comes before the conjugated verb, it's separate. It's entirely separate. It's not attached. It's its own word with a space in between the indirect object pronoun and the conjugated verb. But when it's after the infinitive, it's not its own word. It's part of the infinitive. Do you understand that difference? Yes? Before the conjugated verb, space. After the infinitive, no space. Okay? That's what it means when it says attached to the infinitive verb, as opposed to before with a space. Now, the third example.
Let's say it was.
Let's say it was she wants to write. She is writing to you. She is.
What is this called?
What is this called? This word? It's the ing form. So it's called a what?
What?
This word here, writing. Yes, a participle, right. So now we're on number 3, present participle. So how do you say she? Ella. Is. S. Yes, that is how you say is. But when we're talking about she is doing a verb, we're not going to use ser, which is where S comes from. Do you remember the other verb? Yes, that's the right verb. How did you say it? Está. Good. Ella está. And then we have the word writing. So what you do when you're going to take a verb and use a present participle, you take the infinitive for to write, escribir, which means to write, and you get rid of the IR ending suffix, and you add IENDO. Escribiendo. So go ahead and say, ella está escribiendo. Perfect. So whenever you see iendo, or for AR verbs, if you see ando, A-N-D-O, I want you to immediately think ing of whatever the beginning of that word was. Okay? So like for example, what does that mean? Huh? Close. This means to talk or say. Speaking. Speaking, which is similar. Okay. So ella está escribiendo. So if this is a present participle, where do we place the indirect object pronoun for you? What does it say? Just like number 2. So, like this? What about like this? That's not attached. So, escribiéndote. One word. Okay? You understand how we built that sentence. All right, so let's do some examples. All right? How do we say he speaks to me? Is it what? No, it's a conjugated verb. He speaks. There's no ing. There's no ing. How do you say he? Right. El. How do you say speaks? He speaks. Remember, this is speaking. What? Habla. Good. Habla. So the infinitive is hablar. To speak, drop the AR. It's hablo, hablas, habla. He speaks. So he speaks to me. Okay, what is am I the indirect object or the direct object? I am what's being spoken. I'm the receiving the action. Or am I receiving what is being spoken? Exactly. So I'm the indirect object. Whatever he is saying would be the direct object. So that makes me receiving what's being said. So I'm the indirect object, which makes this, what indirect object pronoun do I need to use? May. And where should I put it?
No, not before alpha.
What?
Before alpha.
Before the conjugated verb. Él me habla. Perfect. That would be correct. Any questions? Okay, it's important that you practice this on the homework. So go ahead and do that. And if you have any questions, Mr. Grafe, how do you do this homework question? I don't understand. Then that's what I'm here for. Okay? And if you need a picture of this, you can take a picture.